Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission's regular meeting for March 25th, 2024. This time, we will move on to roll call. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Commissioner Bott.
Yeah.
Commissioner Britton.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
Commissioner Knable. Here. Commissioner Rasmussen. Here. Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3 tonight is approval of the agenda. Unless there's a motion to amend, I would look for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Britton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Rasmussen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item 4 tonight is open forum. This is a chance for anyone who's here in the audience tonight to speak on something that is not already on the agenda. So if there's something you'd like to speak on that's not on the agenda tonight, at this time I'll open forum. You can step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Dan Ullman. I'm a town chair with Great Cloud Island Township. My address is 9680 Geneva Avenue South, St. Paul Park. I just came before you today, I guess, just with the Dunes development starting out. Just curious if there's any provisions or any of that stuff that the city has made for construction traffic. I'm receiving calls nonstop for all the heavy equipment and everything. Nothing's coming underneath the train bridge, so it's all traveling through our township roads. Not county roads, there are township roads and through our private residences. We have a lot of mining trucks that go by and all that stuff, and we get compensated for that. So I guess I just wondering what has been put in place or any of that for as that development goes on to keep traffic off of our roads and all the housing and all that stuff to not have to travel there if we have to expect to see that go on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Dick Polte, Great Cloud Town Board, 9600 Geneva Avenue South. And same thing with Dan. We're gonna get all the traffic, and all I've heard from the 103rd Street Bridge so far is, when I was here before, and said, well, they're gonna put in additional signage, stop ahead. Talking to Carla Bigham and looking at the county's plans, there's nothing in the plans for that 103rd Street Bridge, nothing finalized, nothing finished. And Carla agreed with that, okay? And I brought up to her, I said, well, what you should do, because this traffic affects us and St. Paul Park, because you got 10-foot clearance underneath that 103rd Street Bridge. So all your ready-mix trucks, sand, gravel, everything, building products, everything's gonna come through our township and St. Paul Park. So I suggested to her, and this would help you guys out, why don't you make a county road all the way through St. Paul Park, all the way down, and now part of it is county road before you get to the Y down there. When you take a left at Great Cloud Trail, make that a county road, at least up to the Cottage Grove border. And if you guys wanted it farther, pursue that. And at the same time, go in the other direction, it's county road halfway around Great Cloud, 2/3 of the way, make the rest of it a county road. Then our problems would be alleviated. It'd actually help you guys out. So I'd ask you guys to push it on to powers to be, to work in the county to make that a county road. Because I've taken a close look in different county roads. They start in a city and stay in a city, or in a township and stay in a township. There's other ones like 19 that go all the way through, Woodbury down here. Okay, so that would be a perfect fit for a county road, because it's a major arterial for St. Paul Park, Great Cloud, and Cottage Grove's development, and development on the lower island when they have that park down there. So I just ask you guys to push it along and try and put some pressure on our county board to do it. Carla didn't give us an answer. She just, okay. But anyway, we'd appreciate it if you guys would help pursue that too. It'd be to everybody's benefit. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on something that's not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, we're going to close open forum. Item 5 is the chair's explanation of the hearing process. The Planning Commission is a volunteer advisory group to the City Council. One of the commission's functions is to hold public hearings and make recommendations on land use and zoning matters. The purpose of these public hearings is to provide an opportunity for each applicant and citizens to present information, ask questions, and express opinions. Since these proceedings are televised and recorded for the public record, anyone wishing to speak must step up to the podium and give their name and address before addressing the commission. Staff reports are prepared and provided to the applicant and planning commission in advance of the meeting. The first step in this hearing will be for staff to present a summary of the report. The applicant will then have the opportunity to briefly explain the proposal and provide additional information or comment. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or against the proposal will then be heard. Upon completion of the testimony, the hearing will then be closed to public comment. The planning commission will then discuss and act on the matter. 2 complete agenda packets are available for viewing on the back table outside the room. Please do not remove those items. The city council will act on these items at their meeting on Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, which starts at 7 p.m. With that, we'll move to item 6. 6.1 is Summer Valley cases ZA 2024-008 and PP 2024-008 with Connor Jakes presenting.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Great to be with you. The 2 applications before you this evening are a preliminary plat and a zoning amendment for the proposed residential subdivision to be called Summer Valley. So the 2 requests before you are a rezoning to change the subject site from AG2 agriculture to R3 single-family residential, and a preliminary plat for residential subdivision to be called Summer Valley, which would consist of 71 residential lots for single-family homes. The subject site is located along the northern border of the city, adjacent to the city of Woodbury, and consists of 24.5 acres. The site is currently tilled field with no existing trees or structures on site. I'll also note there are 3 existing residential developments that surround the subject site. So to the west of the subject site is the Northwick Park development. To the south is the Parkview Point development. And then to the east is the Rolling Meadows development that's currently under construction. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from AG2 agriculture to R3 single-family residential, which would be in accordance with the long-term growth plan for the parcel and in accordance with the 2040 comprehensive plan. Low-density residential does allow for 2 to 4 units per acre. The application before you this evening is 3.14 units per acre. Proposed plat does consist of 71 single-family homes. The applicant has not requested flexibility in terms of a plan unit development and does intend to meet the zoning standards outlined in the R3 zoning district. An HOA is not proposed as part of the project, and the applicant, just to note, has not specified a builder at this point, but is in conversations with various builders and would work through that process. So access to the subject site is through the 3 existing residential developments. To the west would be Jeffrey Avenue South through the Northwick Park development, Jensen Avenue South through the Parkview Point development, and then 63rd Street South through the Rolling Meadows development to the east. The applicant is proposing 5-foot sidewalks throughout the development, which would tie into the existing sidewalk stubs of the adjacent developments. And a future roadway extension is planned on the northwestern corner of the parcel with a hammerhead turnaround that would be temporary until that future parcel in Woodbury develops, and that road would continue north. And then to note, there are 2 stormwater ponds proposed on site. The smaller one to the north would be a dry pond, and then the southern one, that larger one, would be a wet pond that would extend with that Rolling Meadows one into one large pond to serve both of those 2 developments. And then on the northeastern side of the site, there is a proposed trail in that corner that would tie into the South Washington Watershed District regional trail section. As noted in the red circle on screen is where that proposed trail section is. You can follow that future regional trail flows north to the Glacial Valley Interpretive Area that's planned. And then just to note, there is existing trails through the Rolling Meadows development that connects to the Glacial Valley Park that was recently constructed. The applicant did submit a detailed landscaping plan. No tree mitigation is required as there's no existing trees on site. There are 77 boulevard trees proposed, and the landscape plan does show 4 trees per lot with the 10 shrubs per lot. However, I did want to note that the code, since it was recently updated in 2022, does only require 3 trees per lot for any lots that are greater than 60 feet in width. So the applicant would be working on revising that landscape plan, and staff would work through that with a condition that notes staff approves the final landscape plan we'll work through the applicant in that aspect. The neighborhood meeting was held on March 12th. 26 residents were in attendance. There were three major concerns that were discussed. Those concerns related to the development process, construction traffic, and project build-out. However, I would note the primary concern was construction traffic and the route that traffic would take to the subject site, as it is the last developable parcel in this area. The applicant did investigate with the property owner to the north along, in Woodbury actually, the potential to utilize this driveway access. However, that property owner did indicate that they were not interested due to concerns related to liability, tree removal, and other concerns. Thus, the only remaining access option is through existing residential developments, which would be the neighborhoods of Parkview Point on Jensen Avenue, as well as Jeffrey Avenue through Northwick Park on the west side of the subject site. At this point, staff is not intending to designate an official traffic route. However, I would note that this scenario of construction traffic traveling through existing residential neighborhoods is not uncommon within the city. We do currently have 9 active residential developments where traffic is flowing through developing or developed residential developments. A couple examples would be Settlers Bluff, flowing through the first edition of the second edition, Calarosa through the various editions to the 6th edition, which is under construction. And then maybe a more relevant example would be Eastbrook, 2nd and 3rd edition. Traffic flows through that Langdon Hills development that's been completed for about a year now. So not uncommon throughout the city. However, I would note that all construction traffic, as always, has to obey traffic laws and be cognizant they're traveling through residential areas. If there are any complaints from the neighbors, we'd work through those complaints closely with them and with our public safety team to address any concerns as quickly as possible. Again, noting that we do understand traffic is flowing through a residential area. And with that, I would leave the recommendation on screen before you. Staff is available for any questions, and the applicant is in attendance as well.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? All right, thank you. This time, if the applicant would like to add anything additional, please state your name and address.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Brian Tucker with Summergate Development. We're based out of Lakeville. And with me is Christian Fromke from Westwood Professional Services. They're our engineer for the project. Don't really have too much to add to staff's presentation in terms of project details. If we're successful through the entitlement process, we would expect to start grading probably the end of June, early July, assuming weather cooperates here over the next few months. That being the case, then we'd look to hopefully have infrastructure in by the end of this year. And our intent would be to develop this as a single phase to put in all the streets with the initial construction. And as staff indicated, we are working with several different builders that are interested in this site. And once we make it through our due diligence process a little bit more, then we'll select a builder or a few builders to be working in this area. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. At this time, we're going to open public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against the application can now step to the podium, state their name and address for the record. So this is your chance for anyone who wants to speak for or against or has a question to go ahead and ask that now. And then we're going to close that, give staff a chance to answer questions, and then the commission will vote on it. So if you want to speak, this is the time.
Good evening. My name is Dee Schunkweiler. I live at 6019 Jasmine Bay South, which is the little cul-de-sac right behind the farm. We didn't receive the notice for the 12th, March 12th meeting, so we weren't really, we totally thought that was this one. However, we're a little concerned about, I know that you already said that the owners of the farm that's behind us said no to the road. Would we be notified if there's any road going in? Because our trees are on our property, kind of bend up to the farm. And would we be notified if any construction, or if they just changed their mind and put the road through for this construction project? I mean, I don't have any objections to it. I'm just wondering if we'd be notified before that would happen. Since we have fencing, our neighbors have fencing, and our property is right on the line. So if they do change their mind for whatever reason, things change in the course of a construction project. So would we be notified, the residents that live right up back behind, that back up to the farm?
Okay, so your question is, you live
We live right
kind
on the
of abutting
cul-de-sac.
the city border there, and
Right.
so that driveway that runs east-west, you are abutting that. And so your question is, if there's a change and construction traffic starts to use that, are you gonna get notified because of the concerns about your fence and trees and property there?
Right, and then if anything, if they damage our trees and our fence, will they be responsible for the replacement?
Gotcha.
That's kind of what we're looking at, since, it's kind of like, when you look at that property, it's kind of it is literally right on the line, and if they were to put their driveway through to accommodate any kind of construction, it's gonna be it's gonna be a big deal. So it can, I know his combine comes right up to our fence, so if they decide to use that, that would be something that I would hope that we would be either notified or had some input on.
Okay, thank you. Staff has taken notes. They're gonna discuss all the questions and concerns later.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Howdy, Anthony Levine, live at 9440 63rd Street, so just behind the pond that we were all seeing a second ago. Just figured I would take a moment to voice my overall support for the development of the current design. Happy that we're bringing more housing to Cottage Grove. The only things that I'm going to note, which have already kind of been spoken about, which are the concerns regarding the traffic, especially at the corner of Jensen and 63rd. It's a school bus route. You get a stop right there, 20, 30 kids lining up. So we're always a little concerned there. There hasn't been a stop sign heading down Jensen. And so once this opens up, eventually, and this is not so much towards for Summergate, but once the roads are developed, we were hoping that perhaps there might be an idea of putting in an additional stop sign in that area. Not sure if that's within this body's ability to put forward, but a thought. And obviously, we discussed at the neighborhood meeting, which we really appreciated, that we're hoping for proactive policing. We've seen the issues of, we've been there since 2020, seen the development go in, a lot of speeding trucks, things like that. As they've said before, police have been very proactive, so we hope that that continues. And then the second thing was just simply, and we've discussed this already at the neighborhood meeting, was having vibrational controls. So because I'm right behind the pond, there's a bit of concern that if you're riding back there with a large compactor using oscillating equipment, that potentially you could damage some of the home's foundations. We've already discussed, the concern has been brought up to the city engineer. They feel comfortable with it. We still have some concerns as neighbors, judging now that we're gonna have to be taking pictures of our foundations, things of that nature. So one of the things through these discussions was that it doesn't seem that there's clear city guidelines for both the developers as well as the homeowners for like notification of those things, as well as when is this a problem? It's sort of left up to general engineering knowledge, which puts a lot of burden on the public works folks, I would think. So just looking for some guidance potentially being developed in the future that might take away that gray area for everybody involved. But otherwise, happy that it's getting developed and again, adding more homes to Cottage Grove. So thank you all.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the application? All right, at this time, I'm going to close public hearing. I'll have staff kind of answer or talk about some of the things that were brought up.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, just to touch on the northern access point along the border. In conversations with the applicant developer, and they can touch on this as well, but in order for the project to be financially viable and to be a successful project, they would not pursue that access anymore, just based on conversations and those factors I mentioned previously with that property owner. So the access would and is planned currently to travel through those existing neighborhoods within the city for those reasons. And then I'll defer the traffic questions to the stop sign question and bus stop to our city engineer, Amanda Meyer.
I got a question for you here first, Commissioner Britton.
So I understand that that's the plan. I think the question is if for some unforeseen thing changed and that plan changed, would the homeowners be notified?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Britton, we would work to notify all property owners along that access route to ensure there's a plan in place and everybody knows dates and times of occurrences relating to that access route, if it was to be utilized.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So a couple of things to touch on regarding some of the comments and questions / concerns. So I just wanted to hit on, again, related to the traffic. I know there was, at the neighborhood meeting, a lot of concern about Jeffrey versus Jensen. We did take a look, so just some additional information. The difference in length is about 200 feet or so. Both streets have bus stops on them, and both have quite a few kids from our understanding. So again, just to reiterate the things that Connor had mentioned in the presentation, it's really more about the communication, the coordination, and the emphasis with our developer, their contractor about safety, obeying traffic laws, being cognizant and respectful of those existing neighborhoods. As it relates to the stop sign, generally, yes, as we are creating more of a four-way intersection with traffic coming from all four directions, we would look to add a stop sign. This is similar to when Woodward Ponds was connected into, I think it's East Ridge Woods to the south. That was an existing three-way intersection with a future connection. When we made that connection, we did add stop signs on the leg with the least amount of traffic. So I think in this situation, the stop signs would likely be placed on the 63rd Street legs, so that east-west. But that would be something that would be addressed through an engineering memo and the plan adjustments through the city engineering and the developer's engineer. Related to vibrational controls, this is something, as the resident mentioned, we've gone back and forth having some conversations on those. It's not something where, as a city, we've had any specific guidance on how developers complete their work. We have some guidance on how different levels of compaction that need to be reached for various items within the development. With this being a private development, we will, and I know the developer has been shared these concerns, so I imagine that they'll be working with the contractor on those specific concerns. I will say in my years of construction experience, I haven't had a situation where we've had an adjacent property experience issues in their house with adjacent construction, whether it be new residential, road reconstruction, those sorts of things. But if there are specific concerns, we'd be coordinating with that developer to review those concerns with the resident.
Thank you. Any questions for Amanda? I do have a question for you.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I know that we read in here, and obviously has come up now tonight, is the school bus stops and traffic, construction traffic going through. We had the two members of the Gray Cloud Island Township Board came through and talked about construction traffic down there. I guess one of the things that concerns me, I think, a little more is the school bus stops, and now it sounds like there's stops on both of the main entries that would be used to this. Is there any thought to changing the times? I know condition number 29 in the proposed conditions says here's when construction can happen on this project, and we set specific hours. Is there any thought or discussion from staff's point of view of trying to adopt those hours to make it a little less likely that school bus traffic or, times where there's going to be a high amount of traffic on those roads can kind of miss construction traffic?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so the hours that you see in the staff report are actually set by city ordinance. Those are hours that we generally haven't strayed from on whether it's a private development or a public road project. Obviously, there have been exceptions, but it's usually to go beyond those working hours. If you've got one truckload of asphalt to put down and they need an extra 15 minutes, those sorts of things. With developer mentioning that they're looking to start June, July, we are in that time frame where school is generally out, maybe with the exception of some summer school. That may give us a couple of months to evaluate how the construction traffic is routing, if there are any concerns. So as school is starting come September, if it is something that we need to consider, we could definitely chat with staff and see if that's something we could do. But generally, those working hours are set by city ordinance.
All right, thank you. I think we're good.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't walk away fast enough. Commissioner Brandon.
You mentioned the 103rd Street Bridge, so are the trucks going down to the development not being able to use the bridge because it's too short? Are they being diverted, or are there any complications? What's going on, I guess would be my question.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you right now. I haven't heard there being concerns about not being able to get under the bridge. I believe Community Development Director and I will be chatting with some staff and also the developer to understand if there have been some issues getting vehicles under the bridge. At this point, the only work that's been occurring down there is the tree clearing. So if it's other equipment, I would just need to ask more questions, and I believe we'd follow up with a memo in the next Planning Commission packet for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Any further discussion by commission? Seeing none, I would look for a motion.
A motion to approve, subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report.
I have a motion to approve, subject to conditions. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Stevens. I should say the motion's from Commissioner Britton. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item 7 is approval of the minutes. Unless there are any additions or corrections, I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes from February 26, 2024.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Rasmussen. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second from Commissioner Bott. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item 8 is reports. 8.1 is recap of March City Council meetings, and we'll turn to Director Schmitz.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Looking back all the way at March 6th council meeting, if you recall, 9826 East Point Douglas Road, I know sometimes addresses just get thrown around in your head, but this is a house and a property just on the south side of our regional park, and that property owner was looking to divide that parcel into 2 separate properties, maintain the house, and then sell the remainder of the land to the county to add to their regional house. So that was a regional park, excuse me. So that was approved on March 6th, so they'll move forward with creating those lots. And then moving along to March 20th, the Graymont Village Second Edition. As you know, final plats don't come before you, but south of 100th, their Second Edition will start moving forward as they received their approvals at the March 20th meeting. Another 66 lots that they'll work throughout the summer months. And that is all of the update that I have, but of course I will turn it over to Councilmember Kambata if he has anything to add.
Emily, I think you did a great job covering everything. We've had a couple of busy meetings, that's for sure. But I am open to taking any questions from the commission.
Any questions for Councilmember Kamada? Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you guys again for your hard work and dedication. And it's nice to have a couple of quick meetings here,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Now you jinxed it. 8.2 is response to the Planning Commission inquiries. We didn't have any from last meeting. 8.3 is Planning Commission requests. I'll take Commissioner Britton's request for information about the bridge as one. Do we have any other requests for staff?
I have a question.
Commissioner Quinn-Evil.
I was just wondering, do you know when they're starting the construction back up on East Point Douglas Road in Jamaica there?
Yeah, let's get it off the books.
Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So, East Point, Jamaica, we have a tentative startup date of April 8th, weather depending. That will be with the full closure of East Point between the temporary signal and 92nd Street to construct that roundabout. Would you like more details? Because I could go further. Are you sure? Okay, sounds great.
All right, thank you. Any other inquiries for staff? All right. Then we'll move on to item 9. This is the March meeting, so it is our annual organizational meeting. 9.1 is the acceptance of the planning commission rules for the next year. So again, unless there are any modifications, additions, deletions from the rules, I would look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Knable. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Rasmussen. All those in favor of approving the rules as suggested, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. 9.2 then is election of officers. There are 2 officers, vice chair and secretary. Vice chair would take over the meeting and run the meeting in the event that the chair can't be here for the meeting. Secretary does the roll call, and then I think also takes over the meeting if both the chair and the vice chair can't be here. So we'll start with vice chair. Are there any, currently our vice chair is Commissioner Britton. Are there any nominations to serve as vice chair for the next year? And you can nominate yourself or others.
I think Mr. Britton does a fine job, and I'd nominate him again.
Okay, I have a nomination for Commissioner Britton. I need a second for that nomination. Second from Commissioner Stevens. Do I have any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, hearing none, then on the sole nomination, all those in favor of Commissioner Britton being vice chair for another year, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. All right, and then for secretary, currently our secretary is Commissioner Rasmussen. Do I have any nominations for secretary?
I'll nominate Commissioner Rasmussen. He's been doing a great job.
All right, I have a nomination for Commissioner Rasmussen. Do I have a second on that nomination?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Knable. Any other nominations for secretary? Seeing none, then on the sole nomination of Commissioner Rasmussen for secretary, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion carries 6-0. Item 10 is adjournment. And so at this time, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Commissioner Rasmussen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Britton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. We are adjourned.